What is up, Packers fans? Welcome into Pack a Day Happy Hour. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Of course, you know where to find the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Really excited. As I talked about on the podcast today, it feels like about a billion years since there's been a Packers game. So really excited about Packers Bengals. I will be in the stands this Sunday. Looking forward to it. I know it's one of those games where feels like you should win no matter what. But as we have seen throughout the NFL this year, you cannot take anything for granted. Certainly that has been the case for the Packers as well. I should mention that today's show is presented by Luiges Frozen Pizzas. Just had the opportunity to stock up on some frozen pizzas yesterday. I am already excited for hopefully a victory pizza following the Brewers game and a victory pizza following the Packers game. That would make for a fantastic Wisconsin sports weekend. That's my hope. I'm all stocked up. If you haven't stocked up on your Luigi's Victory Pizzas yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't know what more I can possibly say about them other than they are delicious. They are amazing. You have every option under the sun that you want. Fresh dough, perfect. Big Daddy, perfect. You have the gourmet pizzas, amazing. Ultra thin crust, amazing. And every possible flavor combination available. Oh, and the garlic dippers as well, which are beyond amazing. So check them out at your local grocer, luigispizza.com, and on social media at Luigi's Pizza. Should be here for about the next hour or so, answering as many questions as I possibly can. If you want to make sure you get that question in, make sure to get those super chats in. And then I will get to, of course, as many general questions as I can over the course of the next hour or so. Let's start right away with Chicken, who came in at 12 p.m. Any of you want to take a guess on who the only team that lost to the Jets this season is? If you don't guess, look it up. Nobody lost to the Jets, right? The Jets are the lone defeated team, right? If I'm not mistaken, Chicken, unless you're saying which team will lose to the Jets. But I think, yeah, Jets are 0-5. So Jets are 0-5. It's an interesting question on the opposite side of things. So they play the Broncos this weekend. The Broncos should win that. Panthers, Bengals, Browns, Patriots, like they've got winnable games on their schedule. Falcons, Dolphins. Yeah, they're not going to go winless for sure. They have the Saints on the schedule. They have to have one of the easiest schedules humanly possible. So they'll pick up a couple wins, but it's going to be a long season. Unless you're talking about what did the Packers lose to the Jets in preseason? Oh yeah, they lost to the Packers in there's where you're going with that, Chicken. They lost to the Packers in preseason. I did remember that before I looked it up, by the way. But yes, that is their only win so far this year. Why is Love still on the report as full? He's been a full participant since week one. Aaron Nagler did a great job of talking about this the other day, and I'll just echo his words. The Packers are, so you can do one of two things with your injury report, right? You can try to be as tight as possible and under report your injuries. And there's some possibility that you might get away with it, but there's also a possibility that you could lose, some money, a fine, maybe some draft capital if you're consistently doing it and you get caught doing it. So you really don't want to do that. You could just be 100% honest and transparent. And you could say, here's the real injuries, right? And then the other thing you can do is you can almost report your injuries. You might want to say, why would you want to over-report your injuries? Well, because in and of itself, it's basically, a way of subterfuge of, hey, when the opposing team looks at our, injury report, they're not going to be able to tell who's actually hurt and who's like, kind of hurt, but it doesn't really matter, right? So in a way, almost the more people that you can put on the injury report, the better, because one, you're not going to get in any trouble from the league because you're reporting every injury possible. And then two, it's going to be tough for other teams to be like, oh, this person's actually injured, or they're just like extremely minimally injured, but Green Bay is going to report anything. So there's actually an advantage to having more names on your injury report than there is fewer names. If it was just like hey, here's the guys that are actually hurt that we're worried about, well, then teams know they can plan for it accordingly. But now when you throw all these names on the list, they're kind of more taking the guesswork of like, well, we think this is probably nothing. This guy might be injured. He might not be, but it puts a little bit more guesswork on the opponent. Every little thing that teams can do to try to one up their opponent, they're mostly going to take it. So it's not anything that's bad. In fact, if you're Green Bay, it might actually cause a little bit of, is Jordan Love actually injured? No, he's fine, right? We know he's fine. But now you're putting every name possible on that injury list. So it leaves teams guessing, not for Jordan Love necessarily, but maybe for some of the lesser players that are less reported on. Maybe they're not exactly going to know if that player is going to play or not. Happy Friday, Andy. What an epic weekend of football in store for us. Hope you enjoy the game on Sunday. Go Pack Go. Yeah, it should be a great slate of games. And of course, we got, at least for me, Brewers game on Saturday night, which should be epic. I think there's a Badger game that I care a lot less about Saturday night as well. Should be good college football, should be good NFL football. And I'm certainly excited for the weekend. Andy, happy Friday. About this Bengals game, I know if it isn't a blowout, everyone will be upset. But guys, at the end of the season, there are no style points in the standings. Be happy with a win. I think I'm done. Oh, we'll get to that one in a second. I think that's true. If you do look at certain things, though, like point differential does usually matter for the teams that are actually truly best at the end of the year. More often than not. It's not always. You can just get yourself in the dance and get hot at the right time. That's always a possibility as well. But usually if you're looking at trending out, like which teams are actually really good, the ones with really good point differentials usually are the ones that finish near the top at the end of the season. So you would like to see Green Bay take a team like the Bengals and just destroy them and kind of help that out. But it's not the be all end all. They're not playing their final football yet. They're not in their final form. They haven't evolved exactly yet. So Green Bay's just got to continue to get better through the course of the year. Matt LaFleur and company will not be judged on Packers Bengals. They'll ultimately be judged at where they're at come the end of the year. But you want to, certainly win these games so you can hopefully get into a good playoff positioning, try to win the North, get yourself a home game, if not a bye. Like those are things that you want to work towards. And me personally, yes, I would like to see Green Bay go out and put the foot on the gas and put the foot on the neck of the Cincinnati Bengals and just end this thing early and don't make it so that there's nervous moments in the fourth quarter and beyond. I think I'm done with Musgrave. A solid tight end can block linebackers to get open against defensive backs. A really good one can do both. He can do neither, and he sucks at teams. I understand the sentiment, and I kind of have said I think it's time to just put John Fitzpatrick more in that number 2 tight end role. He's a better blocker, and you're really not losing much as a receiver at this point. What I will say is you don't want to go too far in the direction of, just cut Luke Musgrave or something like that. At the end of this season, you can look at some of those things. If you wanted to look at like a change of scenery trade for Luke Musgrave, maybe get like a Michael Mayer for that's something I've proposed in the past from the Raiders or something like that, where maybe it's a tight end that didn't work out the exact way that the other team was hoping and you maybe do a change of scenery and see if both players can play better in their new spot. I think you could look at something like that, but I still think Musgrave was a second round pick for a reason. I do think there's talent there. And I do think if Tucker Kraft were to go down, Musgrave's still probably the guy that you want out there as somebody that at least can maybe stretch a defense a little bit, or that defenses at least have to keep honest with a little bit based on his height and speed. He's not what they were hoping for so far. It's not worth it to just give up on him entirely. I think at worst, he should be the number 3. I don't think we should be talking about Fitzpatrick as the 2, Sims as the 3, and Musgrave completely deactivated or anything like that. But I am more on the point of, hey, can you just get Fitzpatrick maybe a few more of those snaps, see if he's capable of playing a little bit better number 2 tight end. We've seen that a little bit already. In a perfect world, we start seeing some evolution from Luke Musgrave. That's clearly not been the case so far. Hopefully it can turn around, but if it doesn't, and after this season, just we know what Luke Musgrave is, you're probably looking at, again, either a change of scenery or one more training camp for him to prove himself. And if he can't, you're probably moving on from him at that point in time. Packers, we suck at special teams. Injury gods, I know what will fix that. Have an injured kicker. Hey, maybe 2 negatives will make a positive. I'm willing to try anything with special teams at this point. Pearl the Cat. Andy, glad I could make another one of these. Pearl loves Pack-A-Day. How has Edgerrin Cooper been so far this year? Haven't seen too much, and Jaguars linebackers look great so far. Coaching effect. I don't think it's anything like that. I think Quay and Cooper are playing well. I know Cooper didn't have his best game against Dallas, but I think even that was overblown. I had basically a neutral grade on Cooper that game. PFF actually had a positive grade on Cooper in that game. So I think, yes, there were a couple of missed tackles. What I've talked about with Cooper, though, is Cooper is at his best when he's playing 1,000,000 miles per hour. And when you do that, inherently, you're going to overrun a play or two here or there. You're going to miss a tackle. Somebody's going to cut back on you. That's just going to happen. To me, that's within the realm of cost of doing business for Edgerrin Cooper so that he can play as fast as he does. And in the long run, there's going to be a lot more positives than there are negatives. The other thing I will say is last year, because of the lack of pass rush at times, they had to weaponize Edgerrin Cooper a little bit more and get him going on more blitzes and send him on some more double A gaps and things like that. For the most part this season, the defensive line has done their job. They've gotten to the quarterback. They haven't had to weaponize Cooper as much, other than keeping him at that second level and making sure that he and Quay Walker are just annihilating any of those checkdowns. Now, outside of Dallas, that has worked great. And then against Dallas, you didn't want to send him on too many blitzes because Dak was getting the ball out of his hands so quickly that if any more blitzers, now you have less in coverage. Now he has more space to operate because he's getting, 3-step, 5-step dropping out, and you're not letting that blitz get there anyway. So I think he's been good. I don't think they've had to utilize him and use him in the same ways that they did a season ago, but that's still something in Hafley's pocket if ever he needs it, if it's the right game, the right situation to do so. And I still think Cooper's playing good football, as is Quay Walker. No major concerns. You're just not seeing him quite as weaponized as he was in 2024. I'm sure you'll see it at some point when it's needed, and maybe when that defensive front is having some struggles getting to the quarterback, and the quarterback's not just getting the ball out of their hands like Dak was this last game. Prediction: Mike McDaniels will be working for the Packers before week 10. That is definitely a popular prediction, John. Green Bay would not be the only team that I'm sure would be interested in him as a consultant. Remember, he's worked in San Francisco as well. So Kyle Shanahan could easily be interested in bringing him back to San Francisco as a consultant. Also, McDaniel could just take the time off, which was what Saleh was going to do a year ago. And then eventually he's just like, I'll go work with Green Bay for a little bit. Why the heck not? I think if he does get fired, which is a strong possibility at some point this year, Green Bay will very much reach out to McDaniel to see if he'd be interested in any sort of consulting role. Whether he says yes, that remains to be seen, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. By the way, amazing show with Justice. The nugget about play calling cards in college football. Yeah, that was a good one from Justice for sure. All right, we're going to come back to Rob here, 259. I want to get to these super chats really quick. Rick Harris, what will Dobbs get in the open market? Rick, I did a whole episode on that today. I'll go over it quickly just because you did a super chat, so I don't want to leave you completely hanging, but did a whole episode on this today. So highly recommend checking that out. I should say, like, it's mostly like the last 12 minutes of that episode, but that was kind of my main topic. The three kind of numbers that you'd be looking at: Khalil Shakir, who got 4 years, $53 million. Rashad Bateman, who got 3 years, 36 or 37 really million, and Spotrac, who thinks that he would get 4 years, 63 million. So somewhere between about 3 years, 37 and 4 years, 63. I think that Shakir 4 year, 53, 4 years, 60 at the most, somewhere in that, I would say 12 to 15 million a year on either a 3 or 4 year deal. That's probably what you're looking at for Romeo Dobbs. Maybe if you're talking open market, then it's probably a little bit more, just because there's more teams bidding on them. And a lot of free agents do not become free agents these days. So that would probably push that number up just a little bit. Ralph, thank you for the super chat. Andy, going to the first ever Packers game this week, get in around 5 Saturday, leave Monday morning. What would be your perfect weekend within that time frame? Well, Ralph, my perfect weekend is going to be different than your perfect weekend, right? Because I live in Green Bay. I know what to see. I'm here all the time. And your perfect weekend is probably a lot different in the fact that, you want to see certain things or like that, right? So it just depends. Do you want to see the Packers Hall of Fame? That would be something to see on Saturday. Do you want to see the Packers Stadium tour? That would be potentially something to see on Saturday. But for me, you get 5 on Saturday. All right. So you're probably not doing Stadium Tour or Hall of Fame because I don't think they're open Sunday morning prior to the game. You could check it out. I don't know for sure. And maybe they're open a little bit later on Saturday. You could check that out as well. For something like this, I'm probably Saturday night going to Hinterland in Green Bay. I'm going to make reservations, make sure I get a good spot, watch the Brewers game and some college football, get some good beer and some good drinks at Hinterland. It's right across from the stadium. Check out the Packers Pro Shop, maybe right before or right after as I get into town. And then Sunday, wake up. I'm going to get some breakfast somewhere. One of the great, breakfast restaurants in Green Bay. You could go to Nicolay, although it's going to probably be packed. You can go to, Bay Family Restaurant. It's going to be packed, but find a good breakfast restaurant. If Oak Street Cafe in De Pere is open on Sundays, double check that, but that's a great cafe. That's probably not going to be anywhere near as crowded. Then from there, I'm going to go find either a tailgate, or I would go to, one of the pregame spots, Distillery, Stadium View, and Doozy, something like that. Get myself a little buzz going on. And then from there, obviously get some food as well. go to the game, enjoy the game, have a victory. Then it just depends on what time you have to get up Sunday. If you want to get to bed earlier, if you want to go partying afterwards, but you could go find a drink somewhere, certainly, and then enjoy the night, wake up, sober up, get some breakfast, fly home. That would probably be a great Packers weekend for you. All right, going back to Rob. Andy, what is your eval thus far for Quay Walker? From the naked eye, it seems like he's had a pretty good start to the year. I really like the way that he's playing. I don't think Quay is ever going to be, first team All-Pro, Fred Warner, anything like that. I say this specifically because last year I said I was done with the Quay Walker experience, and then he has since then played the best football of his career. So now I'm saying he can't be a first team All-Pro just so now he goes out and becomes a first team All-Pro. I'm trying my best here, but I do think Quay's playing good football. I think he's playing fast, and I think he's playing decisive. And those have always sort of been the two hurdles for Quay, where he was kind of reactionary and just back there thinking, sometimes taking a false step. Now you're seeing him usually make the correct read, trigger, and go. And when he's triggering and going and making the right read, he's going to get there. He's fast, he's athletic, he's physical. And now you're kind of seeing a complete linebacker in Quay Walker. Again, I think he's probably in the top 15, 20 of linebackers in the NFL, which is really good. I think he's playing fast. I think he's playing physical. I think he's playing smart. And I love the way overall that he's playing. So nothing spectacular, not Pro Bowl or All-Pro level, just really good, sound linebacker play. And I personally have very much enjoyed the way that he's played basically ever since I said that last year and middle of last year. And up until now, I think he's been playing some really good football. In fact, I can tell you, I haven't looked at this, but I'm gonna make the strong hypothesis here. Quay, my grades, when I said that it was week 11 last year, and my grade in week 11 on Quay last year was negative 3.45. And since that time, so negative 3.45, week 11 and before last year, since that time, week 12 till the end of the year and then into this year, it is plus 1.75. I mean, I can't tell you how big of a difference that is from a really solid or like a really noticeable net negative player at linebacker to a really noticeable net positive. That is a big time change for Quay. And again, personally, really enjoy the way that he's playing. Do you think the Packers' offensive line woes stem from Butkus being offensive line coach rather than Steno? It seems like they have struggled since making the switch, but the personnel has changed too. Yeah, I'm willing to give this a little bit of a breather right now and say, let's see what this looks like, starting week 8, 9, 10, and then the remainder of the season. The reason I say that is Zach Tom has barely played. Aaron Banks has barely played. Rasheed Walker's been a little bit beat up. Jordan Morgan's been bouncing all over the place. Elton is still making that transition sort of back to center. Just feels like everything's been in flux. Darian Kennard, who they just acquired, has played way too much so far. And guys like Anthony Belton have played. And it's been a little bit of a mess. That's not to say that the coaching's been great. Those are always tough things to say, right? I have no idea what Luke Butkus is doing in individual meetings or in teamwork and all that stuff and working with his offensive linemen. All I know is that right now, pretty much to a T, every offensive lineman has underachieved so far. That ultimately at some point goes to to that individual position coach, right? So I want to see this group play better. I do think as they get healthy and they play in one spot and they gel together, that we'll see a better offensive line. I really, truly believe that. But if this is just who they are, then yes, it will reflect negatively on Luke Butkus, and they will have to look at how they can maybe make some changes. I'm sure Steno is still involved. This isn't new. We have seen offensive lines under Luke Butkus and in Green Bay struggle through the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season, and then things sort of calm down. They get into a groove. They start playing together. They get a level of consistency, and all of a sudden they look great, right? So I'm expecting that to happen again. If it doesn't, then yes, there'll be some real questions about Luke Butkus and what he's done with that offensive line. Who should be playing more, Hobbs or Valentine? Tyler, I think it's a really good question. And I think right now, the answer is we kind of need to let it play out a little bit. I'm a Valentine guy myself. I think he's better. I was calling for Valentine as Hobbs was struggling last week, and then Valentine came in and struggled more. We've seen the Valentine, get dribbled off the deck by Dallas Goedert. He overran the play to George Pickens. I think there's just some plays from Valentine that need to be better, especially from a tackling standpoint. I think Hobbs gives you a more physical presence. I don't think he's quite the coverage player that Hobbs is. I still sort of stand by the fact in base downs, Hobbs, Nixon on the outside with Williams or Bullard, one of the two, and probably Williams, and McKinney at safety is your best base. I think in your base nickel, which I consider more of like your rundown, your 1st and 10, you can kind of do anything in nickel. Like you don't know if it's going to be a run or a pass. I like Bullard in the slot, Hobbs on the outside because he's a better tackler, Nixon on the outside, and then Williams and McKinney at safety. And in obvious passing downs, I want to see Hobbs in the slot, in for Bullard, and then Valentine and Nixon on the outside with Williams and McKinney at safety. So I think it depends on the situation and the scenario. And I'm willing to change my mind if either Hobbs or Valentine really struggle through the remainder of the season. I might change that up. But for right now, it depends on the scenario. If you're more in rundowns, I want to see Hobbs on the field outside. If you're in obvious passing downs, I want to see Hobbs in the slot with Valentine on the outside and Bullard off the field. Just depends on what you're trying to do in that specific situation. Musgrave was supposed to team with Kraft to be our version of the exciting Whites. The only excitement he brings is whether or not he'll stay upright after catching the ball. Still hopeful that Musgrave can find some sort of niche. He should be better in the red zone. He should be better after the catch. He should be better up the seam. We just haven't seen that. I don't know if we ever will. I'm not ready to give up entirely. I think, if we're talking stock here, I don't know if it's even worth selling because there's nobody's buying, right? You're going to sell really, really low. So you just kind of hang on to it and pray, but it's not looking great at the moment for Luke Musgrave. Do you think the Packers will end up paying Quay? He has been balling, in my opinion. I do. I do think they find an extension for Quay. Don't know what that number is. Probably 15 mil per year, 3-year, 45, something in that regard. And I do think they ultimately get that done. For those fans upset with Matt LaFleur, consider this. Brian Callahan declined to challenge a call because he didn't know the rules as to what constitutes a catch. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think you want to compare, Matt and say, well, it's okay because he's not as bad as the worst coach, right? Like you never necessarily want to do that. But to your point, John, just know like there's a lot of not great coaching out there. And I know it always feels like the grass is greener and some other coach somewhere is doing something better. And that sometimes is going to be the case, right? But Matt's a really good coach. And even if you were to stack the 32 coaches in this league, he's in the top 10 all day, every day. Where you want to put him in that top 10, that's up to you. But he's in that top 10. And to just say, get rid of him, you have to be really careful what's coming back because odds are the coach that you get after Matt, regardless of who it is probably going to be worse than Matt. It's not necessarily a guarantee. You could find somebody that's better. And if so, great. You've made an improvement there, but just know the odds are in the favor of probably getting somebody worse. Matt's been one of the better coaches when it comes to record. He's made transitions. He's helped coach up Jordan Love. He's done a lot of really good things for this team. He's got some things to work on. No question. He's got to get better. There's strengths and weaknesses with every coach in the NFL. And he's got to figure out a way to mitigate some of those weaknesses, hopefully turn them into at least not weaknesses, if not strengths, and really bring out some of those strengths that he does have. Still think he's a good coach. Still want him coaching this team. I think any other talk is ridiculous and ludicrous at this point. But hey, the record is what it is. And as of late, lost 3 in a row to end last year. You're 2-1-1 this year. So you're what? 2-4-1 in your last 7 games. It's got to be better than that. And that's up to Matt. He's got the pieces. He's got what he needs to be successful. He has every flavor of everything that he needs on both offense and defense. It's up to him to have this team playing winning football. If he can't do that, then we're going to have a strong conversation. As of right now, I'm not worried. I think they're about to go on a run in a good way, not in a bad way. And I think we'll be talking about Matt in a much different light in the next 3 to 4 weeks, based on hopefully, stacking together some wins in these coming weeks. Jose, go Pack, go, my friend. Come back to Ben at 302. Which lot is best for tailgating? Ralph, that is probably a question for chat. I think lot 1 is, but I haven't done a ton, to be honest. Usually, again, I'm in the press box. If not, a lot of times I'm with family or with friends. Don't have a group that I usually like quote unquote tailgate with. We usually go to the distillery or something like that ahead of time, grab some drinks, watch some football, then head over to the stadium from there. So usually don't do a ton of like near the stadium tailgating. So probably a little bit of a better question for the chat. All right, taking a long weekend. We'll be here for a little. Flew to Virginia and going to watch the Packer game with my girlfriend and convert her from Seahawks Nation. Good luck with that, Ben. You've got work to do, I'm sure. Yo, I have a Supreme locked and loaded Holmes MD1. That is a clutch decision. Well done, my friend. Proud of you. Get after it, and also very jealous of you at the same time. Are we sure the Packers can contain Joe Footsteps Flacco? Yes, I've seen it once. We will see it again. I'm not concerned about Flacco. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson. Those are the big three you have to be careful of. Not much else scares me in this game, but Joe Flacco is not one of the ones that does scare me. That's for sure. Luige's does not do a pineapple pizza as far as I'm aware. I've not seen one. So I don't think so. What Packer specific content, TV, podcast, web do you consume? What about general NFL? Yeah, the truth is, John, I've talked about this in the past. I actually try to not listen, watch, or read almost any Packers content. I watch the game, I view the tape, and I really want to formulate my own opinions. So I do check out, obviously, my co-hosts and brethren on the and sisters on the Pack-A-Day podcast, and try to listen to them when I can. But outside of that, I really try to stay clear, because you'd be stunned when you start reading other stuff or when you start listening to other stuff, you start gaining other people's opinions. And I really want a clean slate. I don't want to be influenced by anybody else. I really don't want to, take ideas from anyone else. I really just want a clean slate. And I don't want to, like take the draft, for instance, right? It's really easy. You get consensus draft boards and one person sees something good and then everyone else sees something good in the same thing. And then all of a sudden that player rises up and like, it's not reality. It's groupthink, right? It's sheep. Sheepthink is whatever. I'm not meaning it that way, but like we all navigate in a single direction. I think it's so easy to do that. So there are like Dusty Evely's so good at film breakdowns, and I do enjoy reading that stuff. I do enjoy reading and just watching a lot of what Aaron Nagler does as well when I can. So there's certain things that I will definitely go out there, try to get packs, what she said, etc. But if I'm being totally honest, for the most part in a given week, it's next to none that I actually consume. So there's purpose behind that. It's not because I don't like a lot of the people that are out there. I think they do a lot of tremendous work. And it puts obviously a lot of pressure on me to do tremendous work as well. But yeah, I want my opinions and my thoughts to be my own. And the best way to do that is to just formulate them and not let anything else seep in from any other sources. Greetings from Vegas. Our city seems to have survived the Andy Herman experience. Go Pack Go. It did, Ken. I had a lot of fun. Always happy to go to Vegas. It's always a good time. Enjoyed this one quite a bit. Wish I left with more money than I, left with, but that wasn't the case. But that's okay. That's usually to be expected, and was a fun time overall. Thanks for the video on Romeo today. Great job. He's pretty clutch in big moments. I think that's worth paying for. Shane, totally see it that way. I can totally see that vision as well, right? Talked about it today. I think you can make a strong argument for. I think you can make a strong argument against. And now, to me, again, my final answer is let the season play out. See where he's at the end of the year. See where Watson, Reed, Wicks, Williams, and Golden are at as well. You've got 5 of those guys already under contract next year. Do you need to pay a 6th in Romeo Doubs? I don't know. But if he continues to play great, is clearly Jordan's go-to, is a red zone demon and everything like that, then yeah, he's reliable. You can depend on him and give him that contract. It's not going to kill you. So I think it's a really interesting debate and conversation. That's why I really wanted to lay out both sides of that. And glad you enjoyed it today, Shane. Chicken is saying we lost. Yeah, I got that eventually. I got there, Tom. Just woke up from a 2-month nap. Why are people not more excited for this Jordan versus Joe QB matchup where the Packers traded for a stud edge rusher from a bad franchise? Did I miss something? Just a couple things, Will. Go watch some tape, catch up on your reading, and I'm sure you'll get to, I don't want to spoil it for you, obviously, but I'm sure you'll get to some changes with the Bengals, especially along the way. I got you eventually, Chicken. I'm listening to others. It seems like if we want good special teams, we need to play more starters and we will be much better. Seems like an organizational, cultural thing or issue. Yeah, what I would say, Douglas, is I think there's another layer to that, right? If Edgerrin Cooper's out there playing teams this week has a major injury on a collision on teams and takes them out for the year, what's everyone saying? Why in the hell was Edgerrin Cooper out there covering kicks on special teams? If, I'm trying to think of a good example. If Keyshawn Nixon is back there returning a kick and you lose arguably your top corner, people will question it. If they put Josh Jacobs back there to return a kick, which I'm sure Rich Bisaccia would love to do, they put him back there and he hurts himself. Why the hell was Josh Jacobs returning kicks? Xavier McKinney is out there covering kicks or punts, gets hurt. Why the hell was Xavier McKinney out there? It's not as simple of a conversation as you may think. Also, there is an argument to be made too in certain situations of like Xavier McKinney has a crap ton on his plate in defensive responsibilities and is playing a ton of snaps. Do you want to add more responsibility and more snaps to his plate by putting him on special teams too? There's a fair question there. And if you do, is he going to attack that with the same vigor that he does his very important safety and defensive responsibilities? Quay Walker would make a great special teams player, especially in like kick coverage, right? He's green dotting stuff on defense, playing every snap on defense. Do you want him out there for 5 to 10 more snaps on special teams? Same thing with Cooper. Cooper's playing every snap on defense. Do you want him out there on 10 more snaps on special teams or 5 or whatever it might be, right? Fatigue is a concern. Mental fatigue is a concern. Or just will they have the same vigor, intensity, energy, etc. for teams that they do playing defense? And if not, is playing Tyron Hopper for his only 8 snaps of the game on teams where that's what he can focus on better than Edgerrin Cooper, maybe not as prepared, not as focused, but Cooper being the better player? Like where's the break-even point there? So injuries, focus, fatigue, mental fatigue, that all goes into the equation as well. And excuse me, while I think there is some validity to, hey, maybe Quay plays a coverage snap. Like maybe you've got one spot designated for a starter, right? Quay does it once, and maybe McKinney does it once, and maybe Cooper does it once. I don't know what that answer exactly is, right? But to say it's just as simple as like, hey, it's all hands on deck for special teams all season long, I do think there's risk that goes along with that as well. I'm not saying it's the wrong answer. And I do think we need to see a little bit more of a focus and intensity and energy on teams. And if that includes having to play McKinney, Cooper, etc., I think at some point you probably need to get there. But in an ideal world, I don't think it's crazy. I really don't. I know Justice would probably disagree with this, which is totally fine. I don't think it's crazy to have like a coverage unit that is, set up primarily for Neiman and McDuffie and Tyron Hopper and Bo Melton and, Javon Bullard and Zane Anderson. I mean, like that's like 6 core special teamers right there. Add in Malik Heath on that list. That's number 7. John Fitzpatrick, or what, you have guys, Baron Sorrell can do it. Like you have some good players on that unit and some guys that are sort of core special teamers. Like I want to see them go out and play well with the guys that they have. Whatever 11 that you get, the goal should be that you can go out and perform. And yeah, would I at certain times love to see some starters out there? Sure, in the right situation or scenario. But in an ideal world, you can get it done with the guys that I just mentioned. That's the task for Rich Bisaccia. You're the highest paid, or at least near highest paid special teams coordinator, assistant coach. You get 2 of your assistants. You're in year 3 of your special teams. I expect more. And I think there's enough pieces there with the group that they have to go out and perform better in teams. Outside, the one thing I will give some accident forgiveness on is punt return. I don't think this team has a true punt returner. I really don't. That I'm willing to say, like, dude, just put a guy back there and just have him fair catch if you need to. Like, I'm not as frustrated from a coaching standpoint at that spot. Everything else you've got, you have. Go make it work. And so far it hasn't. And to me, that's a level of disappointing for sure. Did we hear what happened to Love's ankle this week? I don't think there's been a report on it. Doesn't seem concerning. He doesn't have a designation. By the way, we did get injury designations. We have Wyatt, Belton, and Watson, who are all out for this week. Questionable are Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, I almost said Malik Monk. That's a basketball player, Andy. Jacob Monk, Brandon McManus, Nate Hobbs, and Aaron Banks. Those are your questionable players. So that is your updated injury report for the week. Given your pre-draft eval, not what we know now, which was a worse decision, Kevin King over TJ Watt or LVN over Christian Gonzalez and Jackson Smith and Jigba? Definitely King over Watt. There was actually 3 players I really liked at that TJ Watt spot. TJ Watt obviously being the best, but TJ Watt, Jabril Peppers, and David Njoku. Now, Peppers has had like an up and down career, some really good, some not so good. That it certainly still would have been better than Kevin King. Njoku would have been a really interesting tight end in Green Bay. Maybe you don't end up with Kraft in that scenario, which would have been a bummer. Njoku's been up and down as well. But TJ Watt was the guy I liked the most. But Kevin King wasn't even in that conversation for me. In fact, Ryan Ramczyk was another player who was awesome up until injuries, who was, a Pro Bowl caliber tackle as well. There was a lot of really good stuff on the table. And I think even when they got to Kevin King, the rumor at the time, and it seems pretty legit, especially what we know they did later, is that they were deciding between Kevin King, Dalvin Cook, and Deshaun Kaiser, which of course they eventually traded for Kaiser, which leads me to believe that those rumors were true. And so, I mean, even in that scenario, I probably would have rather had Dalvin Cook. And that's again, now with the benefit of hindsight. When LVN was picked, I liked Christian Gonzalez and JSN way more. Both of those were the guys that I really wanted. Christian Gonzalez, and I would have loved JSN. I liked LVN though quite a bit. Unlike King, who I was like, it's fine, but I didn't love. I did like LVN. That hasn't worked out, obviously, the way that I think anyone has wanted it, although I do think he's playing better. But that one I could at least understand. I could understand why they wanted the pass rusher with high-end upside, who was very physical, very strong, very fast, looked the part, was a, if you look at a scouting book of what a, defensive end / pass rusher is supposed to look like you're getting a picture of LVN. So I understood that one. I got it. The more egregious one to me, TJ Watt was a no-brainer. Like, it's just an absolute no-brainer. I know he went later in the 20s or whatever, and there was some concern if he was going to translate. To me, he was always going to translate. I always saw it. That was one I definitely had right. And in TJ Watt, to me, was a very, very easy eval and should have been the choice there. It is what it is. You move on. You move past it. You never quite get over it, but these things happen to every team all the time. How would you compare Tonyan in his prime to Kraft now? Kraft is just a better all-around overall player. Tonyan was a really fun, undrafted free agent developmental piece that was like a quarterback, then a wide receiver in college, turned to tight end, and again, came to Green Bay and really has made a really nice career out of it, right? So I thought Tonyan was good possession, tight end, a little bit of run after the catch, could attack the seam a little bit. Good hands, like Tonyan. I think injuries kind of derailed him. I think if he didn't have those injuries and would have been able to continue to progress, maybe it would have been close. But I think Kraft has already exceeded what Tonyan was. And I think there's even a far higher upside moving forward for Kraft than there ever was for Tonyan. And I've obviously really liked Tonyan. Why are some people nuts and want Watson to be thrown in right away and saying that it's idiocy to not throw him in right away? What am I missing? Gotcha. So I think here's the thing. I think going in any direction on this and not just trusting the Packers is, I think that's sort of the kind of the mistake here. How could any of us possibly know? How could any of us know if Watson's ready to play or not? I certainly don't. I'm not going to pretend like I know one way or the other if Watson's ready to play. The only people that know that are Christian and the Packers. And what I'll say is, like, you really don't want to rush this. Like, you've got time. It's not like the wide receiver room is in a really bad shape or anything like that. So I trust that Green Bay is going to take their time in the right way and let him get healthy. And that probably is a smart move. If Green Bay would have felt and Christian Watson would have felt that he was good to go this week, then let him go. Like, they would have let him go and I would have been totally fine with it. I would have had no issue with that whatsoever. Because again, how do we determine that that's the wrong decision without knowing the medicals and without knowing how he's feeling? I personally, without knowing the medicals, I would have taken this week as an individual week, let him work off some of the rust, let him do individual drills. I would have taken next week as let's get him in some team drills, give him a day off just to get some rest, but let's get him into team drills next week and ramp him up pretty aggressively. Still have him sit next week against Arizona, and then against Pittsburgh in the third week, I'm going to get him ready to play. I'm going to have a package of plays ready, and I'm going to play him for 15, probably 15 snaps in that game is what I would shoot for. No more, no less. I want him in there for 15 snaps to start getting the feel of the game again. And then from there, I'm going to probably ramp it up to 20 and then maybe 25. And then eventually, maybe a few weeks down the road to 30. And if need be, way towards the end of the year, maybe you can get to 40, 45 snaps. That's probably how I handle Watson the rest of this year. But without knowing the medicals, without knowing it one way or the other, I don't even know how to have commentary on it. Like none of us know. So I trust the Packers to hopefully make the right decision in this scenario. Kraft is way better. Bobby couldn't block. Bobby got better as blocking. Also, I will say Kraft is a fine blocker. He's not a great blocker. So I don't think that part is quite as far apart as you might think. Kraft is better, I would argue, but it's not like ridiculously so. What does Andy pre-gaming when he goes to the game as a fan rather than the press box? Well, it depends a little bit, Douglas. I will probably go to like the distillery or one of the pre-game places before the game, and we'll probably watch some of the noon to 3 game before we start heading in. And then I'll definitely be having some drinks, but I kind of only want to get to the point where maybe I'm a little buzzy for like the first half of the game and then can kind of sober up in the second, because eventually I'm going to come home and then later that night I still need to rewatch the game and do a podcast. So I don't want to be drunk going into, 5, 7 o'clock at night, right? Or like 7, 8, 9 at night, I should say. So that's kind of the way that I look at it is, if I can be a little bit buzzy and enjoy the first half of the game and then kind of sober up over the second half, get home eventually and then record the podcast still. That's kind of what I'm shooting for in that scenario. Going to quietly walk back my predictions about Stackhouse very quietly to you. I never said he was going to be the next Snacks Harrison. He's young, right? Like, let's give him a hot second. This is why he was undrafted. This is why I like Brinson better than Stackhouse. We'll see what Brinson can do this week, by the way. But let's give him a little bit of time to see if he can kind of take a step up and kind of get better as time goes along. Still a player there. I don't think it's ever going to be anything spectacular, but if he can develop and be a guy that eats 15 snaps a game as a run stuffer eventually, I'm cool with it, but it might just take a little bit of time before he can get to that spot. Go Pack, go to you, my friend. If I didn't say it, but Parsons, Gary, 7:30. Let's get 7 out of 30. Get 4 this Sunday. Yeah, they got a little bit of catching up to do there, chicken. What does it look like for you when you go as a fan, pre-gaming, tailgating, bars, restaurants, etc.? So I just went through that a little bit, but usually again, getting breakfast with the guys ahead of time, maybe a Bloody Mary during that, going to like Green Bay Distillery or Stadium View, maybe Badger State Brewery or something like that, having a few drinks before the game, and then usually getting inside the stadium maybe 45 minutes before kickoff, grabbing some food and probably one more drink, one more tall boy or something like that for the game. Usually gets me, good through halftime, and then second half, grab a soda or something, start to sober up, start to get ready for the rest of the night so I can come home, rewatch the game on the condensed version, and then get ready for the podcast right away. So that's kind of what it looks like. The truth is too, Saturday night. So my friends are coming in town from Milwaukee tomorrow. So Saturday night will be a lot more fun and, kind of crazy, especially watching the Brewer game, having a few pops and that will be Uber home night probably on Saturday night. So if you see me out, come say hi, and hopefully I'm not, too crazy at that point in time. Maybe I'm crazy, but the Packers version of Micah Hyde and Evan Williams play style kind of similar. I think it's a little bit the 33 that kind of goes into that playing safety as well, but I don't think it's crazy either. I think there is a little bit of that play style. Whatever it is, I love the way that Evan Williams is playing. He's playing really good football, and really glad Green Bay took him in the early 4th round and traded up to get him. Why do we have special teams only guys every year when we consistently have an incompetent special teams? Yeah, I think it's a little bit, it's a complicated conversation. There's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, Justice and I have covered this a ton. I do think Justice is correct in the fact that Nyman is probably really the only true special teams guy that's like literally on this team for teams and nothing else. You never really want him on the field for defense. Zane's a good safety. McDuffie's a good linebacker. Melton can play corner and wide receiver. Like everyone else has a role on the team too. So Neiman is the only one that's really a true special teams outside of the long snapper, kicker, punter, right? But I do think there's enough there. There's enough there that I think you should be able to work with it. That's where I've said I need it and want it to be better from Rich Bisaccia and company. As we finish the first quarter of the season, what are some roster construction things you are looking for at future seasons, expiring contracts, roster battles, draft picks, etc.? Douglas, that is unfortunately not a happy hour question. That's more of a deep dive into what the next offseason looks like. I'll probably get into that at some point during the season here, at least maybe. But that's something I'll have to dive into a little bit more and would be a little bit tougher to kind of go over just, off the top of my head. But from a general roster construction, it's going to really depend on who they prioritize to re-sign and what spots are there. Right now, I would say offensive line is the number one thing that I think could go through a pretty significant makeover in the offseason. You've got Rasheed Walker and Sean Ryan, who are free agents. Elton Jenkins, who basically has a team option for $20 million. And then where does Morgan go? Where does Belton go? Is Travis Glover anything? Is Jacob Monk anything? And then Zach Tom, and where do you move these pieces to? Is Aaron Banks your future at left guard? I think there's a lot of questions that are going to have to be answered along that offensive line. I really enjoy Mike Wall's tape videos. A few months ago, you said you don't want to show tape on your channel. What changed your mind about showing tape on your channel? All right, so good question. Mike came to me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, I'm assuming you have tape, right? And he's like, yep. And I'm like, I don't. And then he said that where he gets his tape, he had been told that there's no issue with copyright or anything like that. So I'm like, let's give it a shot. Worst case scenario, I get flagged once, we take it down, and we don't do it again. It's probably mostly a slap on the wrist. We'll figure it out from there. So put the first video up. There was I think the Cowboys one. Lo and behold, I get a copyright claim on it. Could probably fight it based on fair use if I wanted to, but it wasn't actually a copyright hit. It was a copyright claim. And how that works is the NFL takes all the monetization on that video. So when I put ads on that video, if I make any money off of that from those ads, the NFL gets it, not me. It's not the worst case scenario. It's not a copyright hit. My channel's not going to get taken down or whatever. So what I basically decided to do for now, unless something changes, right, is to take all YouTube ads off of it and basically offer it as a free video. Now, obviously, I'm still putting, Luiges and, Sleeper and things like that in there, but not putting any YouTube ads so that if there is the copyright claim or whatever, there's nothing that they're not just going to get the money anyway. So that's where I'm doing it right now. We'll kind of keep an eye on it. It did get, again, the copyright version, and it just reiterated the fact that if I were to put tape in all my videos, well, now all monetization goes away, right? So yeah, it was kind of as I feared, but not as bad. I'll put it that way. So if this continues, if the NFL decides, hey, we're not going to actually copyright claim it, or there's not going to be a copyright hit, but we just get to claim any monetization from it. All right, well, I can put Mike's video up non-monetized from a YouTube standpoint, and that's fine. And I'll continue to do that. And there could be then videos that I do or that Ross does or something that are non-monetized, but I also have to be careful with that, because if now you watch that video instead of a different Pack-A-Day video that is monetized, well, now I'm not monetizing that, right? So that's not the be all end all, which is why I'm posting them. I would rather you guys have a great experience. And if that means there's a little monetization hit, so be it. That's great. That's fine. No harm, no foul. That it is exactly as I expected. Immediately got the copyright claim, and all the money from that video immediately goes to the NFL. So that's, I took a chance on it. So far it's okay. Not great, but okay enough where I can, as at least of now, continue to do it. Somehow managed to have a longer injury report after the bye week again. Don't necessarily read too much into all of the injuries, but the questionable ones and the outs are certainly frustrating. But, Wyatt was known. Watson was basically known. Belton was known. It just, hopefully some of these questionable ones are able to go. And you could get Aaron Banks and Zach Tom back from injury. So there is some possibility you get some returns. Maybe Jacob Monk is back. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. For me, after the first part of the season, Dobbs has played his way into a possible extension. Quay Walker and Wyatt appear to be the key people to lock up for future years. Yeah, Walker and Wyatt would be the primary two for me. And then, of course, at some point, you're going to start working on that Tucker Kraft extension as well. On the negative side, it looks like the cornerback and offensive line looks to have the most flux going into the offseason. I'm watching both to see if anyone steps up and changes the narrative. Yeah, I think those are the two that everyone's keeping a little bit of an extra eye on right now to see how those two groups perform over the course of the rest of the season. Pearl asks, way too early to tell, but rank your important to re-sign free agents in 2026. Dobbs or Walker, top of the list. Walker, Quay would be the top of my list right now. That's where I would put it. Seems like Valentine is better in man coverage. Hobbs is better in zone. I think Valentine can play zone as well. I'd have to probably take a deeper dive into man zone and who plays better. I don't know that I could quote it off the top of my head. Maybe there's some truth to that, Dennis, but I'd probably have to go study that a little bit closer. I don't love any of our corners. Not saying they are good or bad. I just don't love them. I think that they are that 1A guy short. If you had a premium corner and then like Nixon was your 2, and then you were like rotating Hobbs and Valentine as the other one, I think you feel really good about this corner room. I think they're just that maybe one true dominant corner short of feeling great about the corner room. But those are very tough to come by, obviously. That's a big piece to be missing. I don't think it's, to your point, I don't think it's bad. I definitely don't think it's great. I think it's workable. I think they're much better than they showed in that Cowboys game. And I think if you really go back the last season and a half, that Cowboys game was really the exception to the rule. The corners have played much better than that overall, and certainly did against Detroit, against Washington, and against Cleveland. That was a hiccup. Hopefully that hiccup doesn't repeat itself against two very good wide receivers this week and then for the remainder of the season. All right, going to come back here in just a second. Let's get to our sleeper picks in for Monday Night Football. We've got Bears and Commanders. Here's what I got. Going the quarterbacks in this one. Caleb Williams, under 230.5 passing yards, but more than 24.5 rushing yards. I think he's going to have to scramble in this one. Washington's defensive line, sneakily pretty darn good. And then, again, Caleb tends to drop his eyes a little bit, scramble around. I think we'll see that in this game. Jaden Daniels, meanwhile, I think he's going to be more efficient from the pocket. More than 215.5 passing yards, fewer than 43.5 rushing yards. We'll see. Should be a fun one. But this is the cool part, right? A $5 entry with the possibility of winning 66-23. It has a 30% boost, which is a promo that they have going on, that they run these things all the time. Also right now, $100 or 100% match up to $100 using code PACKADAY. Again, 100% match up to $100 using code PACKADAY. So that's great. Also, if you're not looking to deposit any money, right now, free $20 entry. Yes, a free $20 entry on Sleeper. No deposit necessary. Go check that out. Terms and conditions apply. You can find those on Sleeper. And of course, it's available in over 25 states currently. Love me some Sleeper. It's been a ton of fun and a great company to partner with. All right, let's get back to our normal layout here. There we go. Back to our comments. And here we go. Are we ever going to get our first round wide receiver incorporated in the offense? Menace, I don't know what to tell you, my friend. He has been very incorporated in the offense. In fact, they've given him, touches, like manufactured touches in every single game. They've thrown it to him deep down the field. He had a big reception last week against Dallas for 40, 50, 60 yards, whatever that was. And, he played only 23 snaps in week 1 and then 40, 47, and 49. He's gone up in snap count every single week. 49 is about as much as any wide receiver is going to play in this offense right now. It's only going to get probably less as Watson and Reed come back. He is as involved in this offense right now as you could possibly imagine. So I don't know what to tell you. He is very incorporated in the offense. I think the timing rhythm, him and Jordan getting on the same page, I think that's going to take a little time. That's normal. He's a rookie receiver. That takes a little bit of time, but he is very, very incorporated in the offense. Let's see. Yes, Chase is questionable with an illness. He did get sick last night. His first bratwurst, I was going to go cheese curd, but could be bratwurst. Let's see. If I ever saw Jacobs on kick return, I'd put my foot through my... See, Menace? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So then where do you draw the line? Well, I don't want Jacobs on kick return. All right, well, do you want Edgerrin Cooper on kick coverage? Do you want Xavier McKinney on kick coverage, which he's done, by the way? Edgerrin Cooper's been used as a gunner on punt coverage last year. Do you want to see that again? And if no, if you're going to put your foot, through your fish tank, well, then you can't be upset when maybe the special teams isn't as good because they're not using their starters. So that's where you have to weigh it out. And that's where a coach has to weigh that out too. Do you want to risk your best players on teams knowing that there's a long season ahead of you? It's a really interesting dynamic. There's not a perfect answer to it. There's really not. I know it seems simple. It's not. And that's why not every team is doing it the exact same way. If there was a simple answer, if there was a clear and obvious answer, your special teams are better with your starters and there's no risk of injury, everyone's doing it that way. That's not the way it works. It's complicated. It's not as easy as just saying, yep, play all your starters on teams. Maybe it could be, but there's certainly risk involved in that as well. If we get a large lead, need to save the injured and get them off the field. Yeah, I mean, I think in general, you don't want to take your foot off the gas too early, but you usually start seeing some backups come in those scenarios for sure. Fred, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. And thanks for being a member for 6 months. Enjoy blowouts the most, but don't get many. Yeah, it's always a fun day at Lambeau, or in any game certainly, but certainly at Lambeau if you can get that big win, that's for sure. Let's see. Pretty sure Desmond Howard at present age can come back and catch punts like a champ. He probably could. The offensive line play doesn't feel the same as it used to be in Green Bay the last few years. I know it's impossible to tell why, but my mind always goes to coaching since Green Bay has a long history of good offensive lines of drafting well. But then again, it seems like some players have progressed the last couple of years. The inconsistency seems crazy though. Yeah, I think in general, the Packers had some really good special teams offensive lines for a very long period of time. And I think the reason it doesn't feel the same is, well, you lost Corey Linsley. You lost David Bakhtiari. Like those two are phenomenal football players. Brian Bulaga. Before that, TJ Lang and Josh Sitton. And while Zach Tom is really good, I don't know if you put together the line of Bakhtiari, Lang, Sitton, Linsley, and Bulaga and put current Zach Tom on that team, I think Zach Tom's the first guy off the bench. Sincerely. And he's their best offensive lineman. So yeah, like it's not as good. You don't have the same caliber of players. Now, I think it's a good modern offensive line. I think you can win with it. It doesn't necessarily, if they start playing the way that they're supposed to, it doesn't keep me up at night. But I do think that it's, from a talent standpoint, it's not the same as that offensive line, or you go back to Clifton and Rivera, Wall, Flanagan, and Tauscher. Those are two insane offensive lines. It doesn't exactly feel the same with Rasheed Walker, Aaron Banks, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, and Zach Tom. It's not at that level. So whether you want to say, development, draft and develop, wrong players, wrong system, bad coaching, you can go in any direction that you want. It's just not the same caliber of talent that they had when they were in the prime with those really, really good offensive lines. Especially developing late round linemen. We haven't had a Bach or Lang or Sitton or Linsley or Wells in a long time, minus Tom. And again, even that, what I would argue though is Rasheed Walker's insane value for a 7th round pick. Zach Tom is an insane value for a 4th round pick. I always get it 4th or 5th. I think he's a 4th. And then, Sean Ryan, still pretty solid value overall for a 3rd round pick. Like there's still some really good values that you found in there. Those things are really, really difficult to do. It's tough to find Corey Linsley's, David Bakhtiari's, Josh Sitton's, TJ Lang's, Corey Linsley's, etc. Also remember, a lot of those in the time where the CBA was a little bit different. You had a little bit more time to develop. Like offensive play, line play a lot across the league is in a very bad spot. A very, very bad spot. This is not a Green Bay centric thing. Most offensive lines in 2010, in 2000, in 1995 would have been better than the ones in 2025. Just is what it is. Watch Flacco turn back into Super Bowl Flacco with Chase and Higgins to throw to. I don't see that happening, Dennis. If it does, hopefully it's not this week. LVN is the same height and weight as Rashawn. All right. Watching the Eagles lose to the Giants, did any Packer fans sleep better last night? I'm sure maybe not sleeping better, but I'm sure felt very good about the loss for Philly. It was a divisional game. We knew the Eagles were having issues, but division games are the most unpredictable. Thursday night football games also very unpredictable, especially when the worst, like the home team just has a big advantage in those. Watson first game against Ramsey sounds like a bad idea. Has been hitting hard this year, trying to prove something. I'm not going to play scared on that one. I'm not super concerned about it. Thank you for my well thought out drinking plan. When do you think Micah Parsons will have a breakout game? I know they've been limiting his snaps. Dude, my friend, he has had literally 4 breakout games so far. He has been outstanding. Now, maybe you're looking for a 4-sack, 2 forced fumble, performance or something. All right. I'm sure we'll get that at some point, but dude has been absolutely disgusting. There's a chart that got put out of like the most successful players, I think, against double teams, like the most double teamed and most success against it. And it's Parsons and Garrett in like a completely different stratosphere than every other player in the league. He has been unfreaking believable. So yeah, I mean, the breakout is probably less to do with Micah and more to do with just can the quarterback hold the ball just 1 second longer every now and again to give Micah the time that not because he's winning immediately. Just the quarterback's getting rid of the ball really quick. And of course, he's seen a lot of double and triple teams too. So he's been fantastic. Yes, Z-Biotics, a great one to use as well. And we'll definitely be utilizing that weekend. Utilized it in Vegas as well. Facing the Giants in MetLife feels like it'll be a tough one. Does the Giants team go on a run, or was it just another fluky game? Well, they just, this is the beautiful thing about the NFL. A week ago, the Giants lost to the Saints. They lost to the Saints. And now they beat the Eagles. And so we completely forget about the Saints game. This is the new New York Giants. Now this is who they are. It's all encompassing. They're the same crappy team that lost to the Saints. They're the same really good team that beat the Eagles. Which one shows up week to week? If we get the one that lost to the Saints when Green Bay goes there, I feel pretty damn good about it. If we get the one that beat the Eagles, you're in for a freaking fight. We'll see. Don't know. You never know. That's the crazy thing in this NFL. You just don't know which team you're going to face week in and week out. The record almost doesn't matter. It's all out the window. It's its own unique beast at this point. You got to go out and win the game. It's really, really hard to do so. After the win over Cincy, can Goody offer an ice cold beer and season tickets for Chase to join the Packers and have a chance with a contender? Good luck with that, Drew. Don't see that one happening. What Packers gear do you wear to the game? If jerseys, what's your favorite one? I'm not a jersey guy. Don't own any jerseys. Usually it's like a Packers hoodie, something, not this, but like something like this. Depends on the weather, obviously, too. If it's a winter game, obviously I'm a lot more bundled up. If it's a early September game, usually I'm, in shorts and a Packers tee or something like that. But we'll be in some sort of Packers hoodie would be my guess this upcoming weekend. Bigger breakout opportunity for the O-line this week, run or pass block? Both. I think both are there for them if they want it. I just need to see competence and good, solid play. They can't have a Cleveland Browns performance. I'll just put it that way. Parsons hasn't actually been limited since week 1. Correct, Drew? They said he was on a snap count still, but he got 35 plus snaps. Yeah, he's totally good to go at this point. Saw some stat. Parsons is playing around 65% less snaps as the average edge rusher, so he's still pretty limited. I have to look at that. Well, I can look at it this way. By position, edge. All right, so Parsons has a second best grade. It's a little bit tough to tell because he has played one fewer game, right? He's probably a little bit under, but look at it this way. Like Danielle Hunter. So Danielle Hunter has played 213 snaps in 5 games, 42 and a half snaps per game. Micah is at 43.75 per game. So it's not all that different. Like Crosby's a freak, right? Crosby has played 63 snaps per game. Nick Bonito's at 39.2 snaps per game. He's one of the best defensive ends in football. George Karlaftis is at 51.8. He's a little bit on the higher end. Josh Sweat is at only 37.2. Will Anderson is at 41.4. Just to reiterate, Micah so far is at 43.75, and he was definitely limited that first week, right? So he's right within the realm of most defensive ends. There's a couple that are playing more because Max Crosby's a freak and plays every snap or whatever, but I think he's at a really good spot overall, and I honestly don't think they need to change too much here. All right, I'm going to try to go through the rest of the lightning round, guys. I do have to get out of here. Any chance on getting Kirk Benkert on an episode? I would say that's probably very unlikely. Let's put it that way. Andy, do you think Emmanuel Wilson will eventually be the starter at running back when Jacobs leaves? Thanks for everything you do, man. Ian, I don't know. I will say probably not, just because I think Jacobs is around for probably 2-3 more years. I don't know if Wilson is still on the team at that standpoint, or at that point, I should say. And then Marshawn Lloyd is coming up. I will say probably not, but it's not impossible. Probably more depends on how long Jacobs stays in Green Bay. Mike Wallace Insight is awesome. Look forward to him every week. Dude is legit. He is amazing. I was in traffic listening on a podcast. Can't remember. It was just shuffling. Oh, I don't know what that was in regards to. And I don't know what was getting complicated, Dennis. Our corners rely on the pass rush. If the pass rush isn't there, our corners are not good enough straight up. I think it's slightly more complicated than that, Menace, but that kind of goes for most cornerback rooms as well. If the pass rush doesn't get there, it's tough in this league. You better get a pass rush there, or the corners are going to get taken advantage of at some point in time. I think they're still doing better than people think. What's your record for the year on sleeper picks? I don't know. I know I got one big one right, and I think I got one other one right, and I don't think I got the rest right, but I don't know for sure. But I still think it ends up being a positive because I got the one big one right. So I don't know. I'm not positive on it. I don't look at the wins and losses all that closely, if I'm being honest. Never said anything about special teams. Games don't come down to one special teams play. Even if it's a major thing like a block kick or punt, rewind the tape to any of those games. Yeah, Menace, I disagree with that. I think it can very much, like the razor thin margins in the NFL right now, everything matters. Everything freaking matters. And a big special teams play that costs you a point and gives the other team 2 points, or costs you 3 points because it's a blocked field goal, that is a massive game-changing outcome. No doubt about it. Do we need to think about getting a new special teams coach? That would be an off-season thing. I don't think there's anyone out there right now, to be honest. God, I'm a Cardinal fan. You guys are well off, believe me. I appreciate it, my barber. Thanks for being here. And now that Andy says it out loud, that O-line was on God mode. Yeah, those offensive lines were really good. Could the offensive line ever get so depleted they change the offensive game plan to run option and play Willis 30 snaps? No, Jeffrey, absolutely not. Going back any further to Michaels, Timmerman, Winters, Taylor, Rivera, and Dotson, yeah, there have been some really good lines, no question. What's Bach up to? I'm assuming that knee is just going to be a non-starter for him moving forward, unfortunately. Smart Stewart, doubtful, kind of wanted to see him play. Michael, we want to see him play after this week. He can play a lot after this week. Don't necessarily need to see him this week. He's a good player. He looked really good early on, and he looks like he's going to be a stud. Sounds like they took Crosby and said he was the average. Oh, yeah, maybe that was the case. I'll look at it like this. Yeah, even though Dallas blocked the field goal, if they didn't return it, we still win. Was a 3-point swing. Yeah, I still think the special teams is a massive. It can flip the game in a massive way, just like offense can, just like defense can, but certainly special teams can as well. All right, friends, do need to get out of here. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you a ton. Appreciate Luige's for sponsoring today's show. Shout out to Sleeper as well. Check out those sleeper picks and get yourself a Luige's pizza when you have a chance. I will see you guys all very, very soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.